Hi, good afternoon. This is Aaron.
And this is Mel.
And we are Land Title Solutions.
Let me tell you a story about why we do what we do. In my past 5 years of experience in real estate, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of landowners in the Philippines. And contrary to what most of you might think, majority of landowners in the Philippines are not born into wealth and privilege, leaving their lands idle, unproductive, and underutilized. With this, a question emerges. How can these lands, worth over $22.3 billion, be underutilized? Upon research of our team, we have found that there are three main reasons why these lands are underutilized. Landowners are uninformed, titles are unclean, and the market is highly fragmented. But we do what we do because we have seen the plight of Filipino landowners. We have seen how they have suffered economically, that they cannot use their lands to generate income. This is trapped capital, and what we want to do is we want to unlock these trapped capital for them by doing the third point, that the integrating the fragmented market of the supply side and the demand side of raw lands in the Philippines. Now, after considerable feedback from yesterday's judges, yesterday we wanted to do everything. But with the considerable feedback of the judges, we were able to pinpoint that by integrating the fragmented market, we will also be able to resolve all those other issues, and then those issues will be resolved and will follow. Therefore, we will move from unclean titles to clean titles, and what we want to do is we want to be the Airbnb of raw lands in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia. We will match demand and supply because the industry, the market is highly fragmented in the Philippines.
So let me tell you about first the land industry. So the land industry is made up of two sides, the supply side and the demand side. The supply side is made up of landowners like James, and the demand side is made up of land developers like Abby, representing John Dorf Ventures Corporation. James is a landowner and he has inherited his land. For the past 2 years, he has not been able to utilize his land, and therefore we see that as trapped capital, meaning that James already has the asset, but he is unable to generate income from this. This is where his pain points lies. James needs an access to the demand side of the market, which is the developers, and he would need a platform that will allow him to sell his land or put it up for lease. The second side of the market is the land developer, represented by Abby. So it takes Abby 1 year in order to find the right land that would suit her specifications. This is where Abby's pain point lies. She would need an access to the supply side of the market, and she would need a convenient way, that would accelerate this process to shorten the 1 year that she is looking for that land. Therefore, the land industry is composed of both the demand and the supply side of the market. We have found out who are we talking to, who are our customers and partners. Our landowners are our partners, meaning that there are actually 4 out of 10 landowners that already have clean titles. This means, clean title means that they are already ready for investment and development. On the other side of the market is the land developer, meaning that we are linking these landowners to these land developers. In the Philippines, the government has set targets for socialized housing and solar renewable energy. For the past how many years that we have implemented this target, we have had 5.7 million backlog in socialized housing. We believe that it is a fundamental right for each Filipino to have food and shelter. And at the same time, the 1,000 megawatts of renewable energy target by 2030 is still underserved. We estimate that there is a 30,000 hectare of land demand from this side of the market. Thereby, our company, Land Title Solutions, exists because we want to be that link between the landowners and the land developers. As Aaron have mentioned, Land Title Solutions is basically an aggregate platform, an Airbnb of all raw lands in the Philippines. And we want to integrate the highly fragmented market to link landowners with land developers, landowners being our partners and land developers being our customers.
Having considered the fragmented landscape and the competitive analysis in which our venture will operate, we saw a gap in the market, and we saw that there is a market that is underserved, and that would be an online listing for raw lands in the Philippines. It is an underserved market because our competitors have gaps in their solutions. And we have filled in all of the gaps in their solutions. For example, our closest competitor would be OLX. OLX does not do due diligence on the land, which means, because in this industry, land developers will need highly accurate and considerable information. But without due diligence, landowners will have inaccurate data, therefore, which it will also serve as a pain point for their clients. As for land brokers, they don't have access to an online database in which it is important and vital for developers to have access to. And all other competitors in the landscape have holes in their solutions. Therefore, that's where we come in and we fill in the gaps in their solutions. Now, what impact does it make? For landowners, land title solutions will be a seamless path out of poverty for 10,000 landowners in the next 5 years, because we will help them utilize the trapped capital that they are sitting on, which is land. We will help them generate income from untapped, underutilized, and idle lands by integrating the demand and supply sides, getting developers and investors for them to enable them to utilize lands. Now, what does this mean for the other side of the market? For the demand side, it will stimulate investments and it will accelerate the rate of development, like for example, of solar PV farms or socialized housing development. Therefore, stimulating growth and creating more jobs for people, and it will eventually create a virtuous cycle and a ripple effect, not just affecting their local communities, but also throughout the country, the entire region, and eventually the entire world. With this, land title solutions will also accelerate certain UN Sustainable Development Goals for us to enable more and more people to be empowered economically, because it is totally unacceptable for us, for people to remain in poverty, especially when they already have the resources, but the only problem that they have is they cannot utilize it. And that's where we come in. We will help them generate income for their families and the future generations. With that, we believe in the power of working with people through partnerships. With that, we have identified 2 key partners. On the demand side of the market, we will partner with Frio Land Corporation, which I co-founded 4 years ago. Frio Land Corporation has an extensive database, and they have an extensive network in which this will accelerate and increase the likelihood of success of land title solutions, because we already have, in fact, 8 interested investors who want to utilize 17.5 million square meters of land in the next 5 years just for socialized housing and for solar PV farms alone. On the supply side of the market, we will tap the Philippine Association of Real Estate Boards, in which we get their network with over 68 locations and 5,000 professionals, for us to reach out to more landowners, for us to get them as partners and help them accelerate their income and empower them economically.
For our financial impact, by the first year, we would have reached 300 hectares of land, and by 5 years, our target is to reach 3,000 hectares of land. After 5 years, we would have generated $10.4 million in revenue, and this would be coming from mainly 2 revenue streams. So the first revenue stream is the sale, meaning that land developers would pay upfront. However, this is seasonal and sporadic, so this would be complemented by the revenue stream of the leases that would generate a stable revenue and regular cash flow. Most of our investments are directed to the working capital or the salaries of our partner acquisition teams, which will stimulate or empower the landowners to join our platform, and the customer acquisition team that would get more demand or more developers and investors into our platform. So beyond all these numbers and beyond all these revenues, our most important asset is our team. Aaron here has been in the industry for the past 5 years, and he carries 2 professional licenses. 2 of our team members have been social entrepreneurs. I am a teacher and a marketer, and one of our team members, Jomer, has had financial and banking industry expertise.
So where are we today? Right now, we are in the seed and development stage, and it's only a matter of time before our venture takes flight. We have identified key partners and investors, and we have the right team in place, And we have a lot of mentors from the Asian Institute of Management, entrepreneurs, professors, and professionals. All we need is your help to move this venture forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you walk me through the customer journey? Right. How do they interact with your platform, both sides of the equation?
So for the landowner side, what we would do is basically our company would have a partner acquisition team, meaning that we would have a specified team to tap into the local authorities and the Philippine Regional Board that would get into the many little landowners. So that would be for the supply side of the market. Then for our demand side, we would be tapping into our go-to-market strategy is Free Land Development Corporation, meaning that they would already have the network that would pool the developers and investors who are looking for the lands. So they would have different purposes for the lands. It would be socialized housing, PV farms. Depending on their specifications, we would pool these developers and investors in order for us to match them depending on their needs.
Just related to what you just said, so it seems to be very much sort of each deal is very different, right? Any way you can actually automate any of this or scale, to help with your scaling?
So one of the critical steps in the operations itself is the land profiling that we'll be doing beforehand. So it will be already pre-classified depending on the specific investors that we have already targeted. So the lands could be classified into, it could be already fit for agri-industrial companies or for PV farms, which has been generally mapped out, but the specific lands have not been identified. So we could come into play for those aspects.
Thank you for your presentation. Very interesting. You have you talked about the fragmentation of the land, but then this is also a social venture competition. So, from a social point of view, when we talk fragmentation, what kind of size of land are you really talking about? If the fragmentation is very large, then it's not really all that social. And second, none of you are lawyers. Don't you think you need a lawyer to help you with the cleaning up of the titles?
Yes, that is actually true. So in our cost structure, we will be hiring professional services that is specifically targeted to the property or land property development. So we will be tapping into lawyers for legal services. We will be tapping to geodetic engineers for technical specifications of the land. We will be tapping to market survey or land appraisers or surveyors to provide us the market value of their lands. In terms of your first question, the social aspect of it, is that we will be having an aggregated platform. We understand that landowners will have this specific size, land size, which the market demand will compose of, the requirement is very huge. So we will be aggregating them in terms of we will be adding or their properties, all of their land sizes, in a way that will meet the market demand of a huge hectareage. So.
I understand, but what is the current size that you're looking at? Are we talking about 1 hectare or smaller than that? What is usually what are you dealing with? Average.
The average land sizes is usually just smaller than 5 hectares. So it's owned by really small families and very distributed, so that it's hard to deal with all these land markets and to meet the demand that the industrial developers need.
Just to build on Adrian's point, the reason why majority of landowners are actually borderline poverty is because in 1988 there was an agrarian reform program in which the government distributed lands to different landowners. And the problem with that is through time, when, for example, the climate changed, their lands were no longer suitable for farming or agricultural purposes. And some lands had been converted into different uses. So what we want to do is we want to maximize the highest and best use of these lands, in which we will match landowners with developers or high impact investors, so that owners would generate income from this, and developers would also accelerate their rate of development as well.
That's actually clearer than your business plan a lot. To say that, because of the persons who own the land is due to the situation in your country, right? So you just try to help the smallholders to reach the bigger market. But the fee of the service is around 200,000 pesos per hectare.
Yes.
Who is going to pay for that? Which side of them? And how could you make sure the equality and the land use? Because if you go to like the poor farmers or low-income people and you say that the developers are coming in, most of the feeling will be about negative feeling and
Yes.
the shame to the society around them. So how would you manage that as well?
Oh, thank you very much for that question. Initially, we have a selling price of 150,000 pesos or 200,000 pesos per cleaning of titles. But based from our the judges' comments yesterday, we have the pricing strategy has been moved to the land developers, which they have the willingness to pay because there's a need for them. And for the landowners, it will be free of charge, so that unlike Airbnb, wherein they will the owners of the property pays a certain amount of percentage for their services. For the land sellers, they will be free of charge. The land developers will cover all the charges because we give them the customer gain of alleviating them from searching and everything that we will be providing value added on.
Just to add on, building on the social inequity portion, there are also other forms that could be explored to create the equity between the developer and the owner. Sale is more appropriate for socialized housing, while lease is better for solar PV farms, while joint ventures can also be explored so that at least the equity could be distributed.
I was wondering how different the presentation and revenue model is today from what you presented yesterday.
We did a real large pivotal view of our revenue model just last night because of the we received the comments from the judges in terms of social value, social impact, and the revenue because we believe that the landowners are incapable of tapping or paying for our services. That's why it's very the comments are very important for us. That's why we thought about what if we will be charging the land developers instead, and from there, because they have the resources, the capabilities, at the same time we are helping the landowners to utilize their current potential, which is attract capital for the land.
I'm happy that you've shown the ability to kind of listen and adapt. I'm very impressed. Why do you think this hasn't been done before? And also, I'm wondering, it wasn't clear whether is OLX land specific or is it just a general classifieds page?
Okay, first to answer your second question, OLX is actually not focused on just lands. They're a consumer to consumer platform in which, for example, I want to sell my shoes. It's like Craigslist, yes, precisely. For your first question, the reason why a lot of people can't do it is because they don't have the resources in terms of expertise, in terms of actually the willpower and determination to integrate all of these things, because these involve multiple dimensions and aspects such as legal, technical, and communication, because a lot of family landowners actually have conflict, social conflict, in a sense that that's also what we're targeting. With our team, our project managers, we will be able to resolve family conflicts because our project managers are trained with conflict resolution in a sense that we want to transform relationships. So that's just another angle into it. So yeah, one of the reasons why is because it's a highly technical industry, and it's also something that you just can't, there are high barriers to entry, so that we can also create our competitive advantage from there.
Okay, so my question is that do you have already developed the demo versions?
Like a proof of concept?
The demo versions, the prototype.
Oh, Right now, we don't have the website because we're still in the process of bootstrapping everything so that we could get angel investors.
Yeah. So I wonder how will you manage the payment system, because normally when people buy and sell the land, it's totally different from we buy and sell things. Yeah.
Just to answer your question, we're actually considering using smart contracts.
So still perform on the platform or have to be like face to face?
There will be one instance of face-to-face right after the buyer expresses his interest of the land, and then after that, everything will be automated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.